Welcome to Your Nonprofit Power, you brave, beautiful souls changing the world out there. We love to get together once a week to talk about all things nonprofit, the building blocks to become a fearless fundraiser. That's what we're all about. And occasionally we bring in some guest experts to help us learn different facets of leadership that make it possible to build a sustainable and stress free fundraising foundation. And leadership and governance have a lot to do with it. So I'm thrilled to welcome our guest today, a good friend and colleague, Derek Gallagher from McCready Simpson LLC, who works in nonprofit insurance. And so we're going to get the skinny on why insurance matters, how we sex it up, how we understand it, not just as a need, but as a power move. And that's going to be the difference. So join me in welcoming Derek to the stream. Hey, Derek, welcome to Your Nonprofit Power.
Good afternoon, Amy. If I could have you lead into every one of my meetings as I walk into the door like that, I honestly think my success rate would go through the roof.
You could bring me on sales calls with you. I'll kind of do.
Exactly. And I would be more than happy to throw some of the commissions your way for that introduction.
Well, listen, it's easy because when I talk to you about insurance, my stress starts to feel lower when normally
Well,
it used to go higher. So
well,
you got.
that's what we like to do. That's not always the case, and we'll definitely dive in on some of the aspects of the insurance world and trying to ease some of the panic that I'm sure everyone that checks the news, they see cyber claims, property claims, and they may see that and initiate some panic. So hopefully by the end of it, we can educate some people and calm their nerves and give them some tools to use in a way against these insurance carriers for them to properly insure themselves and move forward with the proper program.
Yeah, to properly insure themselves and move forward with the right policy. That's what I love about working with you guys, and you in particular, Derek. It's just you really take the unknown out of it and explain and ruthlessly prioritize, right? How to protect. And of course, you've been on the show before. We love welcoming you back. It's probably been about a year, we were just saying, right?
Yeah.
A lot has
Well,
changed in the insurance industry and changing.
a lot of people, they just, insurance to them is just this construct that you need. It's a pain in the butt. You pay it every month and you only need it in worst case scenarios. And that's typically what insurance is used for. And it's an ever changing market. It really is. If the economy is fluctuating, so is in the insurance market.
Well, you're
Um,
right. You watch the news, and here's why I'm really great at fundraising. I'll be honest. Is even when I'm watching the news, I'm calculating. Okay, where are things going to fall out? I imagine when you're insurance, you're doing the same. You're seeing the news come across the screen, and you're thinking, "Oh boy, what is this going to need for? What is this going to need for mean for premiums?" And
Exactly. And one thing we do at Simpson McCready is we're very proactive and we're forward thinkers and we're thought leaders. So we pride ourselves on having the knowledge and having the plans in place before these storms hit. We are constantly monitoring. I honestly feel like I might have a degree in meteorology for Florida at this point because the Florida market is just so insane and we do have a heavy presence in Florida. So we're constantly monitoring the storms and the fluctuations and the frequency of these storms. It all plays such a role into our insurance here in Western Pennsylvania.
yeah, and nonprofits are thinking, "What the heck does that have to do with me? I'm not in disaster."
Exactly.
Now, I have a client who's actually in disaster recovery. I'm really proud to be working with Helping His Hands. They do amazing work. And so they probably have a much more clear picture of insurance. But for some of the nonprofits we're working with, they may have the basic, maybe, a board of director insurance, and that's it. They may not even have the need for employees, or they may not have employees, so insurance may be really limited. But I love how you help us kind of roadmap it, right? You kind of
Mhm.
help say, here's what you need to understand about insurance, and here's the trigger points of what you might need. Before we dig in and understand these crazy fluctuations, we love talking about fearless fundraising here and what it means to become a fearless fundraiser. You work with nonprofits, Derek. That's a big part of your focus. What, in your opinion, how does insurance play into becoming a fearless fundraiser, would you say?
Yeah, so I think insurance is just so important whenever you look at it from a fundraising aspect because you're going out there and you're doing the work. You're going out, you're hitting the pavement, you're conducting these charitable events to gain donations for your operations. An uncovered claim from an insurance standpoint wipes all of that work out. It wipes out all that time, all that energy. It wipes out the mission. And one uncovered claim could close the doors on that nonprofit that you've worked tirelessly in building up that reputation, improving people's lives, getting those donations. So whenever you're looking at insurance, you have to look at it that it is involved in every aspect of that nonprofit.
Yeah.
Whether it's going out and getting the board of directors, you have to have D&O directors and officers insurance because a lot of well-known businessmen aren't going to want to join a board unless those limits are there and they're appropriate for what their net worth is. And getting donations, how are those people covered as they're out? Are they employees? What if somebody gets injured when they're door knocking? Where does that coverage fall? Who does that fall on? Is it on the homeowners? So I mean, it is everywhere.
It's worth the conversation, is what I
It
hear you say.
really, it really is. Honestly, I know insurance is, like a non-sexy, topic for everyone, but it really is such a fundamental item in your nonprofit journey. At every turn, your insurance broker should be one of your best friends as you navigate through the process.
Yeah. As you're thinking about a new program, as you're thinking about a new office space, as you're thinking about a capital campaign project, those are all trigger points to say, oh, I need to touch base with, some key people, and your insurance carrier is absolutely one of them. That makes sense. And I love the answer. Becoming fearless just means, I think I hear you saying that, you're protecting your mission. Um,
Mhm.
and you and I have talked. My family's in insurance. My brother and sister-in-law both executives in insurance for a number of years. And as the saying goes, insurance is for pessimists, right? Not true.
Yeah.
Not true. Right? It's for fearless fundraisers so that you can really add to your message that our mission is protected beyond my term as leader, beyond any potential risk based on what our mission provides. You have to have the coverage.
For
Um,
sure. And to get to that fearless leader status, I want to offer that peace of mind from the operational risk. I really do. And that's what I want. My main focus at the end of the day is you to focus on those operations and those donations. Let me protect the mission. Like, let me focus on that. You focus on doing you. And I
yeah.
think that's why we have such a success and such a well reputable presence within the nonprofit spaces. This is a top-down approach at Simpson McCready. This isn't, oh, Derek was raised right in small town Beaver County. This is the Simpson McCready motto. And I'm just a steward of it. And it's honestly such a breath of fresh air to work with such an organization that takes such an involved approach into every single nonprofit that we work with.
I can't agree more. I've met and worked a lot with your team, and that focus on community building, that's what I would say it is. It's a focus on being active members of the community, which changes the conversation and helping people. Well, let's jump in. Let's talk a little bit about you know what insurance is most important, and what sort of I guess what are some of these factors? I know we've talked about weather that's driving this conversation with insurance, because if I understand correctly, you're seeing a spike in premiums, you're seeing changes in the cost of insurance.
We are, and I'm sure everybody has. You've lived through the storms. Whether you're in Western Pennsylvania, whether you're in Kansas, whether you're in California, every part of our country has had some sort of large storm system that's rolled through in 2022. And what that has had on return is there's large losses. So the insurance organizations now have to look at those losses and they're basically re-underwriting almost all property risks. Property is a very chaotic market, but that doesn't mean you can't get in front of it. All of these things can be mitigated to an extent. Increases are natural in the insurance world, but you can fight them. Preventative measures is something that we're speaking heavily to our clients. So something as simply as getting like an Arlo security camera in front of the building, things of that nature. Water detection devices throughout, like whether you have an older building from a nonprofit standpoint, having those types of devices put within, and a lot of insurance carriers, believe it or not, will work with you in getting these for either free or heavily discounted because they want you to mitigate as much risk as possible as well.
To
So
keep you
that
in your portfolio and keep
exactly. So that makes you in doing these types of preventative measures, it makes you more of an approachable risk for more carriers. So more carriers equal better pricing at the end of the day, as long as your broker is navigating through the process with the appropriate measures. But from the market is the market right now. I think one of the most important relationships is with your broker.
yeah.
You have to trust that broker as an asset and resource right now.
Well, let's talk about some examples because we can talk theoretically about the news and about current events
Yeah,
that don't seem to have to
sure.
do anything with us, and we see the price increase in our proposal. I'm curious if anybody listening is looking for insurance now or experiencing this price increase yet, because it may not happen until your renewal.
Mhm.
Uche's joining us. Hey, Uche, good to see you. Leave your comments and questions as we continue. So I can tell you when insurance became important to me as a nonprofit leader, and it was way late. So
Well,
of
it's
course,
important though. It made its way to being important. So
it's a good thing I had a
it got
fierce
there.
legal and PR team to get me through the learning curve. But um, I will say that, I think everybody's familiar with board of director insurance. And if not, let's just be really clear. This is a basic and core insurance you have to protect your board of directors against legal suits,
Mhm.
mostly, correct?
Yeah. So if somebody brings suit against your board, names them individually, if you do not have D&O coverage, those personal assets of that board can be brought into that lawsuit. You will never have a high functioning board without D&O coverage.
You should have no board without D&O because
Exactly.
it doesn't take a lot to get a lawsuit moving. It can be a hostile work environment. It can
Yeah.
be a threat of fraud. It can be have nothing to do with you and what you're overseeing. And believe me, I work with boards enough to know that their eye on financials aren't where they need to be.
and one of
So
the and
do
one of
not
the things,
join
yeah,
a board that does not have D&O coverage and ask to see the coverage. And I am not
exactly.
kidding. Ask to see the coverage.
And if you are joining a board, make sure it has the proper limits for that would match what your asset base is.
So yeah, you might want to take that and take it to your carrier to have it checked. We all
Exactly.
think about joining the board as nice cause. Yeah, I got a few extra minutes a week or whatever. No, no, no. You are responsible for the ethical, moral, and legal decisions that entity makes. Um,
Well, that's one thing that we are seeing in the space is we're taking a very proactive approach and kind of not as a consultant, but like as a resource to align people with organizations such as yourself, because board governance is one of the largest mistakes that we have seen. And if anything, the pandemic magnified that issue because more D&O claims were coming out
what kind
because
of claims? Can you get a
misappropriation of funds and they're bringing the board in. Something as simple as like other coverage claims, like an EPLI claim could come in, an employment practices claim could come in, and then they could name the board in their suit as well.
Yeah, I'm working with an organization right now that's, dancing real close to whistleblowing, and the board seems to think they're operating like they have a head cold when I'm, working with them to understand this feels more like cancer to me. Like this could go bad quickly with the right attorney at the table.
And one thing we're starting to see, and it's a trend in society, is a lack of board diversity. That is not something that people have thought about, but that should be on the forefront. Is acknowledging the diversity aspect of it and what that brings to the table for an organization. It is bringing people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different ways of thinking, and it's bringing a different approach to the board. And it's eye opening to a lot of these boards that are becoming more inclusive, but lack of diversity on a board could lead to some sort of claim, some sort of lawsuit. In today's world, you can find a lawsuit for a lot of different things. As an insurance professional, as a consultant, we have to be very cautious in conducting ourselves on an everyday basis because of lawsuits. That's no different for nonprofits.
Yeah.
People are under the impression that, oh, nobody's going to sue a nonprofit. They're going to
Do
look bad.
something good. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, like everybody thinks nonprofits are immune. Unfortunately, no. We're seeing such an uptick in nonprofit claims because people are viewing, they see a board member at some sort of event that they don't appreciate. Well, they automatically bring that into the nonprofit and they're like, oh, well, I donate money, but you had a booth at this event. I don't like what they stand for. I didn't donate my money for that. I'm suing you.
Yeah, and without a political opinion here, cancel culture is real, and
It
people
really is.
are taking things in their own hand to make their point heard. And so the legal system is certainly one way to do that, and it can come from a place of righteousness and doing right. It might come from a nefarious place, but
Yeah.
either way, the board is responsible for making sure the proper coverage is in place. And that, thank you for sharing that. I can tell you, just to back up, my story was as a CEO of a national trade association, we were responsible for educational events. Our our national annual conference, $1.5 million event. Derek, I may have shared this with you before, and we locked into a hotel. We right-sized the room block. I had an enthusiastic board member convince me to enlarge the block, which I shouldn't have done.
Mhm.
And then the workforce went on strike at that hotel, right during a time where my industry was moving into union labor. And so, from a PR standpoint, I could not hold the event at
Uh,
that location and deal with the potential of workers striking. That's not who we were. It's not who we are.
yeah.
So, to get out of a $435,000 contract with a major hotel is no joke, right?
No.
And I had no insurance. I didn't have special event insurance. I didn't have money to return to my sponsors. Should this have gone badly, I
Yeah.
had no recourse. So we played a strong PR game and we worked with the legal team to come up with a solution that cost us money, but not everything. And I certainly got insurance in place after that.
And you brought up something that it is on the forefront, is special event insurance. I come across that every single risk that I look at because you're hosting special events. How are you getting donations? Everybody they want to have a beer tasting, a wine tasting, and that's all great. You want to have your golf outing. Great. Do everything you possibly can, but make sure you're looping in your insurance broker. I
Yes.
literally came across a very well known organization a few months back, and they did not have any special event coverage
Yeah.
at all.
I
And
think
they
a lot
were
of
hosting events,
organizations don't,
and
Derek.
they reached out to me as a prospect, and you have to walk a very fine line at that point. You at that point you have to really put the advisor cap on and kind of explain to them that this was not your fault that this was overlooked because it wasn't. It's not on them. Your job as a nonprofit leader, executive director, business manager, whatever you are within the nonprofit structure, your job is that nonprofit. Our job is to make sure that we understand what you're doing and how to properly protect you. That's why at Simpson McCready we take an active approach for your operations. We get involved. We're in the nitty gritty. I'm volunteering. I'm coming to your events. So I get a understanding of your population group, what your mission, what your drive is. Who are the board members that are the driving forces? Who do I need to make myself aligned with so I can get things done for the executive director, for that business manager from the insurance perspective? There's so many things that go into it,
Yeah.
and it's just being involved.
Yeah.
You need somebody that's involved. I don't care if you're a $500 a year premium nonprofit or you're 500,000. As a nonprofit, you deserve an involved broker. I
Yeah.
don't care. Your mission is greater than ours. Your mission is greater. You're helping individuals. We're going to help you so you can help them. That's our mission.
That's fearless.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great it's a force.
You
Really, it
I
really
love
is
how
a
much
force.
you love your job, Derek. That's
Oh
one of my
yeah.
favorite parts of working with you is you are able to connect the dots from, yep, we gotta figure this stuff out because of the mission, because of the impact, because we need you to be successful out there. You truly partner, I mean, the whole team at Simpson McCready. I mean, you guys truly partner with your communities that you're serving, and you are national and beyond, I believe.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're global.
So
um,
when you're talking
yeah,
about Florida or my daughter's softball athletic team, you care at the same
oh
level.
yeah.
You bring it. You bring it.
Well, it's because the larger organizations, they have it together typically. They have a great set, but the smaller ones are the ones with the resource. Like they need the resource. So that's I'm from Rochester. I'm from such a small town where my mom was our public librarian
Mhm.
for 15 years, where I mean, she did it out of the love of her heart, the kindness of her heart. It was not a money play whatsoever. I can attest to that. But seeing the people that were affected by that resource being given to them, I never realized how many people use the public library until my mom was a librarian. It
Yeah.
was insane. And then to see the impact that my nonprofits have at their events, or hearing about the success stories of their donation drives and what they're able to facilitate, and they're hosting these events for the people they're honoring. I mean, that is why I'm at Simpson McCready. Is these types of, it's not, make a ton of money. It's to give back to the communities that have given so much to us, because we're all from small towns.
Yeah.
Every one of us is from a small town, and every one of our small towns has a nonprofit, and there are people in need in our small towns.
Yeah.
And it's up to us, and I think Pittsburgh does a phenomenal job as communities, but it's up to us to uplift each other. It really is, because our government's not going to do it. It doesn't matter what side you land on; they're just too busy fighting each other. So it's going to take us as everyday citizens and nonprofit organizations to really come in and do the work that's not being done for our fellow citizens at this point.
Yeah.
That's the truth of
And,
it.
and that sentiment is really team wide at Simpson McCready. That's what's really just amazing. You guys are volunteering, you're serving on boards. You are, and I've introduced you to a number of people, and it's how can I help? It's always how can I help? So I appreciate that advisor role that you really offer our communities
Oh
because
yeah,
you're right. We're not born with this knowledge. Nobody knows about insurance. We don't come out of the womb having a clear understanding of risk assessment. But I really appreciate the examples you brought up from small organizations to, multi-million dollar organizations. Because just because you don't know somebody who has been in a nonprofit lawsuit or has been found of corruption, make no mistake, it's 1 or 2 degrees removed. And so no, insurance isn't for pessimists to, follow up what I said before. It's for fearless fundraisers to say, "Hey, look, we're growing and we're expanding our insurance coverage as we grow, but
yeah.
we have a thorough D&O coverage in place. We understand what it's for, and we use it to recruit board members. It's something we talk about with
Hmm.
them. We have certain coverages that we talk to our funders about so they understand that at the leadership level, we're taking care of our fiscal responsibility. This is part of your fiduciary responsibilities, duty of duty and care requirements of serving on a board. Make sure that your organization has the proper insurance coverage."
For sure. And it's just you for years. I think the insurance industry has made it confusing, and a lot of people just they just automatically assume that their best interests were being held there, and so that's why it's important to have a broker that's going to talk through the renewals with you, walk through the coverages, and understand where your operational risk is. And the only way they're going to do that is if they're in front of you. A phone call doesn't always work. Zoom is great now. Like I can touch clients in Florida now. I can touch clients in California now without having the issue of getting on a plane with, you know, how travel is right now. It's very hit or miss. And I can hop on a Zoom call and we can go through a risk analysis in 30 minutes and me get a better understanding of where and how I need to make changes, whether they're a current client or if they're a prospect. Because, and the other thing that's been amazing, and it's given you a platform, which is awesome, because I feel like people such as yourself that, you know, are really looking out for our communities need larger platforms, is it's enabled us to have a further reach.
Yeah.
And that is so important, is to understand that these resources are out there. You're not alone, that people do care. And
Yeah.
there are others just like us spread out across this entire country. And to facilitate relationships, I mean, one of the things I love doing is when one of my nonprofits is going through a problem and I can't directly help them, is connecting them with another nonprofit. Because at the end of the day, it's not, we can't look at it as a dog eat dog world that you're both going from the same donations. That's no. Uplifting one another is going to help with the success of each other. And I'm seeing it more and more where more nonprofits are actually partnering together. They're still their own same organizations, but they're coming together to maximize their influence. And even if they have similar operations or they feed off of each other, they're still maximizing that event. And it's a beautiful thing. And I
Yeah.
think we're starting to approach more and more of that. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
I would agree with you. I do feel like, and it's this march toward fearlessness. Like there's a confidence to the nonprofit sector that I haven't seen before, a
Mm-hmm.
collective confidence, and I do think it has a lot to do with pride of what, you know, they were able to see themselves in their own light accomplish during unprecedented times. I think we're still feeding off the confidence. I want to keep that collective confidence going. So I love
Oh,
that feedback you have on that referral. And I agree with you. One of the biggest benefits of being in my universe and working with my community is the referrals I can make. The people I know that I trust that I've tested. I think you're saying the same thing. It's
oh
connecting
yeah.
with nonprofits that can help guide and so important
Yeah,
as we
because at the end of the day, you're not the only one that's been through it.
definitely.
Gosh, no, you're not.
You're not a
You're
special.
not. You're not discovering new problems. These problems have been around, and it's just navigating through them. And if you can cut down the time spent,
Yeah,
why not have a simple conversation? You know, and it's great because then you see friendships forming, and then they don't. I mean, I hope they still need me, but then they just email and call each other from there on out. So it is a great part is making these connections, and
yeah.
that's all we love doing
It's
anyway.
just who you are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
And I
that's
agree with you
us.
too, because when that's who you are, it doesn't have to be door to door, face to face all the time. I love it. Don't
Yeah,
misunderstand me, but we're big digital community builders. And I remember speaking to one of your colleagues, Tom,
yeah.
who said something really interesting to me. He recently is relocated from the Pittsburgh region where we're headquartered
Hmm.
out of town. And he said, I'm actually doing more business in Pittsburgh than I've ever done, strangely, now that I've moved a few hours away. And I think it's because we've learned how to think about community differently, which I love, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's the pandemic was not fun for me because you know I was shut down, but you know I think it made us I think it forced us to problem solve a little bit more.
Yeah.
It forced us to uncover different methodologies to reach people, and the proof is in Tom's numbers. I mean, he moved to Delaware, like that's not a couple hours.
Not
He's
close.
he's in Wilmington, but he still has the level of presence and care within all of his clients. And that like and I think that what the pandemic forced us to do was to uncover different ways for us to reach these people and to continue to showcase our value.
we've had to tap into our power because there's no room for fluff. Like it boiled down to you have to be so clear with where your power is and how to get the word out to attract your funders, your client, whatever that is. As an entrepreneur in the pandemic, we're relating to it differently in
Yeah.
some ways, but don't underestimate the power of digital community building. Of course, I'm talking about that a lot in my group this month. And what I said in the training yesterday was save yourself the time and stress of resisting it.
Yeah.
And instead realize it is an essential part of the community. Even in insurance, you're able to connect around the country. So no matter where you are, you can stay in touch with Derek and learn more. I can't think of a better conversationalist to learn more about insurance needs. You mentioned a couple important coverage points, so I just want to give us a little time to kind of wrap up and make sure that folks are at least thinking about when is a good time, because I love your comment. It's always an important time to reach out to your broker. One is
Always.
make sure you have a broker, right? But
Make
just
sure,
think,
yeah, step one, know
you
your
said
broker's first
is
name.
have a broker. Find a broker. It, of course, doesn't have to be Derek, but find a broker.
For sure.
You mentioned a couple of policies, and I'm curious how you would rank these or what you'd like to share about them. You mentioned director and officer insurance, of course, as a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
But I know that we've talked about cybersecurity, property insurance. What else did we talk about? Also, abuse and neglect. What would that
Yeah,
insure?
sexual abuse and molestation. It has like a very awful name, but it really feels weird to say, but unfortunately, that is extremely important in today's world.
Oh my gosh. I worked at a children's organization for 5 years as the director of development, director of business development, and then fundraising. And that's what we did. We served kids, and we had hundreds of employees. And make no mistake, there are nefarious people who will seek out those opportunities. And so, if you're an organization that serves children, you're naive to think that you're not at risk for attracting people who are looking to cause trouble.
Yeah, yeah. You have to, and that's one thing that we kind of talk with our clients on an active basis about is volunteers. Is what is the process if there is? And I understand that a lot of places can't have a process, but you have to understand who is volunteering for your organization.
Yeah.
And it's not. And a lot of people, whenever you bring this up, they instantly like, "Oh, our people would never."
Our
And
people are the best.
it's not a claim. It's not like I'm saying you have a bad egg. There's not a statistic out there that's which if there is, I don't even want to know it because naivety. I would rather be naive on this subject. But it's the simple act is like somebody that accuses that turns into a claim. It's an accusatory concept. So I'm at nonprofit XYZ's event. It's a community block party, a lot of volunteers, bouncy houses, all the great time face painting. I go home, I'm 11 years old, and I tell my parents, oh, hey, so and so, I felt weird. This happened, you know, not a nefarious act. Parents instantly, I'm going to be a parent in a month, so I'm guessing I would be full on Papa Bear mode. My wife would be Mama
You're
Bear
going to
mode.
find out what happened.
We're going. And then that could ultimately lead into a claim. And then that's whenever something as simple as that could really turn detrimental to your organization if coverage is not in place. Because a lot of general liabilities with this coverage coming to fruition are now specifically excluding it on a consistent basis because it's a standalone coverage now. Same thing with like cyber. Cyber is going to be an issue until the internet's gone. So cyber is always going to be an issue, and it's not large organizations; it's small ones.
And with AI happening, yeah, what I really think is important, what you're saying is the generosity that you approach your clients with, which is you didn't know what you didn't know, so that right. Number one, and number two is you can find yourself in trouble even if you've done nothing wrong.
Exactly. I mean, that is a very concerning thing, and I'm all for, we have to have these litigious processes in place, and that's what makes America great, is that we have, a judicial system in place that will oversee the law of the land. But there's a thing called insurance fraud, and there's bad actors out there that are looking to prey and looking to get a quick payout. And this,
I'm I'm sorry to interrupt you. I serve on our local school board. You and I have talked
oh,
about, and I mean, there are lawyers who just kind of spin around the community looking for somebody who's disgruntled about their IEP, about volunteering require. There are people who are looking to find opportunities to make things right. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
and they honestly do not realize the effect they're having. Like I mean, they could, because in my opinion, they're not great people to start with. I mean, there are certain attorneys that are definitely necessary, but is a derogatory name for a lot of these types of guys, so I won't say it. But they're these types of instances are having such an impact on the insurance market at this point. Like in Florida, like real quick, one thing that was happening was there was there was people that got business cards and they slapped stickers to their pickup trucks and just drove down and claimed they were roofing companies looking for people after this hurricane to give quotes. Then they're like, well, you have to give me 25% down now, and I'll have my team there tomorrow. What do you think happens? These people, they're in a very tumultuous time. They're going through the worst time. They lost everything.
And they just want to get back to
They
normal.
just want some sort of normalcy. And here's this person promising that they're going to give them some sort of normalcy. No, this person takes that check and they go, and you never hear from them again.
Yeah.
And that occurs, and that's not just on the for-profit side. That's people are targeting nonprofits, because who works at nonprofits? Typically, people with kind hearts that are looking for the greater good in everyone, so they're more susceptible to bad actors. But a lot
Yes.
of them can see through it. Like the well-versed ones can see through it. But then there's these times where they
Don't
slip
be so
through.
sure you can see through it. Yeah, don't be so sure, because I think I've fallen prey to some really crazy stuff that you're like, I can't believe I fell for that.
Yeah, and some of these people are the most manipulative. I just wish they could use their powers for good. Like if they could, we would be in a much better
That's
place.
what they're good at. So yeah, it is. And so you've got to get away from, oh, I love our volunteers. They would never, or our board is all sweet, or I've just seen too much in the last 30 years from, oh, that board member was so nice. And then they became president and they blew up the organization. Like, you just don't know where people are on their journey. And it's not up to you to be profiling and judging everybody. That's what systems and
Yeah.
insurance is for. You don't have to think about, did
Mhm.
I get it right? You've got the systems in place that it will get right no matter what. Um,
Exactly. And I think that's what like everybody needs to realize is focus on the most important thing is the mission. And we understand that. We're a very empathetic. Somebody asked me for a tagline.
first sales here. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody asked me for a tagline for Simpson McCready for an event, and I said, insurance with a conscience.
Nice.
Like, empathetic. Like, because that's so important right now. You have to understand what these people are going through. You have to understand what these nonprofits that struggled through 2 years of a pandemic, that are now facing everything's higher, not insurance.
Yeah.
Everything's higher. And what's that make? Less donations in return. So that's why people like you are amazing, is equipping them with these tools to fight through these roadblocks. But at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, is that mission. We're there to protect that mission. Like that's what I want to do. I don't. It seems corny, but that's us. I'm like this in every meeting, and it's weird. Like people are probably like, "This guy's weird," but like it's the truth. Like it's something that means something to me, because my reputation means everything, right? Like I'm gonna be a dad, so my daughter is gonna have the same last name as me, and it is my job to live up to what my parents established. So, and that's what is so important, and that's why I've really taken a love for the nonprofit space from an insurance perspective. It's one way to give back and have an impact.
That's amazing, Derek. I always enjoy talking to you, and I can't wait to meet this little girl. Does she have a name yet or not yet? Probably not yet, right?
I
Don't share
slipped
names,
once, so I'm not slipping again to you.
of course. Do not
I
tell.
I was so worried that my wife was gonna be, and thankfully she gave me some grace on it.
Oh,
Because I was, because
wait
we
till
held it quiet the whole time,
I know. I
and
can't wait.
we say it between us, which was horrible because I don't like secrets at all. And I just, it was, she made a joke. It was only a matter of time,
It
and
knows you.
it was only a matter of time. But I'm keeping it. She does have a name, and it's unique. So I don't want any opinions on it until she's here.
Well, I can't wait to meet her, and it's going to be just within the next few weeks, right?
Yeah, we're May 14th, so
Yeah.
it's, as you know, it's my best friend Taylor Rombold's birthday, and it'll be Mother's Day. So it would be so amazing for my wife if she's born on that day, and it's gonna be amazing anyways.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm going to put some money down because I had a feeling today. I really was channeling May 10th. So I don't know. I just wanted to put it out there. I just, that day really popped in my mind when I was thinking about you today.
there we go. So if it's
Gotta
May
get
10th,
on the
you
record.
have some sort of power that you haven't given out yet. So nonprofit community, I mean, Amy has more powers that she's not handing out yet.
The art of fundraising and birthing. Well, this is amazing. And, Derek, I just want to wrap up by saying your certainly your passion for the industry and for your community, but for the leader themselves. And when you started off saying the path insurance gives you to fearless fundraising is that peace of mind. And no, you're not going to be talking about your insurance policies all the time, but it does build that foundation of that financial fortress that gives you the confidence and the tools to be fearless in your fundraising, to really convey the power of your organization to potential funders.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you for the time, and we've really built such a great friendship over the past year and some change, and we appreciate Simpson McCready appreciates everything that you do, and we look forward to an amazing partnership and mutually beneficial relationship moving forward, and you have such a great presence within the nonprofit industry, and we need more people to adhere to your advice and kind of take everything as gospel. So we appreciate you as well, Amy. Thank you.
Thanks, Derek. One step at a time for all of us, right? Extending grace all around. I like it.
Exactly. One foot in front of the other, and we'll get there.
How can folks stay in touch with you, Derek? What's the best way? Follow you on LinkedIn, on Facebook, both?
So yeah, so LinkedIn, Derek Gallagher, Facebook. I'm not on Facebook as much anymore. Getting a little older, but it is important. So I do stay active on your pages. So you will always see it's going to come across as Derek Allen on Amy's pages. So please reach out anytime. We do complimentary analysis. So that's just basically me doing an analysis of your current program. You can go ahead and take that back to your current broker if you have a relationship. I don't want to ruin any relationships. If you have an established trust already, I can give you some guidelines. They can incorporate those changes into your program so you have the relationship and the proper coverage. But if you decide like, hey, you know what, I'd like to give Simpson McCready a shot, we are more than happy to work with any and all people in the nonprofit space, as an advisor, as your insurance broker, whatever you would need from us. We just love the space and look to maintain a heavy presence.
That's fantastic. I'll be dropping some links. Derek and I will be dropping links in the comments as well on how to stay in touch with Simpson McCready or Derek specifically. So always keeping insurance interesting, Derek. I don't know how you do it, but I love talking to you and your passion shines through. Thank you.
Coffee and YouTube pep talks. That's how and my wife like kind of gives me a little bit of motivation. As I look at that big bump, I'm like, okay, we gotta rock and roll today. So thank
Give
you,
her,
Amy. I
give
appreciate the
her our
time.
best for the next few weeks, and I'm looking forward to some good news soon.
Will do. Thank you very much, Amy. Take care.
Take care.